Okay, so today we're going to cover the last 18 months of us building autonomous AI agents. It's been quite a ride. AI agents themselves have gotten so much better over the course of the last 18 months. And we know because we've been playing with them, messing with them in the space for a while, um, you know, knee deep, really trying to figure out how to build them first and foremost, and where exactly they fit into a business setting, right? If you don't know me or anything about us, I'm not a coder. I'm not an AI engineer. I don't know how to code, but I do think that AI is going to completely change the way we operate and build businesses. And then obviously for our personal lives and whatnot, AI will have a role there. But when it comes to business, I fully believe that AI can be a massive point of leverage, and really help us ultimately just make more money and build our businesses in a way where we're decreasing margins, we're decreasing the cost to gain leverage, right? It costs a lot of money to hire an additional employee, but that additional employee gives you a lot of leverage, right? You can delegate a lot of tasks to or start new initiatives because you have this new employee, but it costs a lot of money to get that leverage, right? So we think AI is that opportunity to get a similar leverage that an employee would, at a fraction of the cost, like way less than what it would cost to get a human on board. So this is just us over the course of the 18 months, stuff that we've worked on, and ultimately the learnings that we took from building agents and why we think now is the right time to start embedding agents into your business in general. And so we've obviously, we've worked on chatbots. That was a chatbot that we worked on a couple of different things for a fractional CRO client, more of like the chatbot-esque thing. We built our own applications, AI-powered SaaS applications, obviously various AI agents, and then just tons of agents and automations in general. So we've been in the space, attacking it from many different angles, trying to figure out where the future is going. How do we build something that's not going to become obsolete in 6 months? How do we get involved in the AI space and our involvement isn't just going to be obsolete when OpenAI comes out with a new model? And we think that AI agents are that answer. And so what are AI agents, right? Put very simply, they're just LLMs, I think like ChatGPT, that can take actions, right? So an LLM, a large language model, is what's powering ChatGPT. ChatGPT is just kind of the way that we interface with the large language model. And right now with ChatGPT, all we can basically do is just do input output, right? Like let's say you received an email from somebody and you want ChatGPT to write you an email response to send back to them, right? So you would copy the email that they sent you, put it into ChatGPT, say, hey, write me a response. ChatGPT will write a response, and then you copy ChatGPT's response and then put it back into Gmail and then hit send, right? So ChatGPT is writing the email, but it's not actually sending the email for you. An agent would actually write the email and send the email on your behalf, right? So the big unlock for AI in general is not just it having the brain of a human, but being able to do things uh, based on like its reasoning and its decision making, and its role inside of your organization or whatever. And so that's a huge unlock. And I think a lot of people are aware of this and are trying to bring this into reality. And so what you're seeing are tons of AI agent frameworks just being basically being launched like every single week, and tons of no code platforms that allow you to build AI agents, right? And so some of the popular ones are Crew AI. This one's getting a ton of traction. Tons of people are obsessed with it. There's a lot of downsides. One of the biggest downsides is that you have to know how to code, right? This is like a coding framework that you use. But clearly tons of people are using it. They have tons of what they call crews, which is just multiple different AIs kind of working together. Yeah, I mean, Crew AI is a popular one. We tried it obviously, but you have to know how to code. So there's a huge learning curve. AutoGen, same thing. You got to know how to code. Um, this one was created by Microsoft. It's pretty popular. It actually works pretty well. The improvements that they're making on this are incredible, and they make it a lot more intuitive for kind of like your average person to hop in there and start messing around with agents. But still, there's a lot of fragility, it feels like, in the system. Things seem to be brittle and break when we use AutoGen. So I don't use it that much. at this point. And then Zapier. So Zapier actually released what they're calling Zapier Central, which is like a centralized platform to build essentially AI agents. They're calling them assistants. And I honestly think that Zapier is um, kind of like going in the right direction, but on the wrong path. Like the way that they have created their platform for you to build your own agents is not super intuitive, and I don't think that they fully understand how how like someone is thinking about this, how your average person is thinking about this. You should be thinking about agents as like almost like low skill virtual assistant, but like human at the end of the day. You should be thinking about your agent like that rather than like an automation that you kind of like embed an AI decision maker into that automation somehow. That's just to say like Zapier is a place where you can build agents. I just don't like the approach that they're taking to doing it. And then you have platforms like VoiceFlow and Stack AI and other chatbot, traditionally like chatbot builders, right? Like VoiceFlow is probably one of the most popular platforms for just building chatbots, right? And what they've started to add is, hey, start building AI agents, right? Don't just make it a chatbot. Let's add actions to it. Give it tools, like give it the ability to do things. So what you're seeing is even the chatbot building platforms are now leaning into this AI agent space. All the momentum is moving towards this. All of these companies and these startups who are like, oh, okay, we're going to build like this cool AI SaaS. It's going to be a platform where anybody can build their own AI application onto it. All of them are realizing that agents are the next step, and so they're obviously adding these features into their tools. And then you have some other platforms like Relevance AI is a really popular one that's gaining a lot of traction. I think it's some. I think these guys are out of Australia, but they started out as I think Vector AI, and so they were just like a vector database provider, or they embedded data for vector databases, something like that, something in the AI space, but more to do with databases. And then they spun off and did Relevance AI. I think it was a hard pivot, and I like their platform a lot because it's very intuitive and it makes sense. It's easy to understand how to build an agent and what the different components are for the agent, but some downsides are it breaks a lot. There are some things that are kind of hard to understand, like the flow and how you're supposed to build the flow exactly. I mean, these are new startups and things are changing all the time, but Relevance is one of my favorites. I just don't think it's the best, and they're very similar to Mind Studio. Mind Studio was one of the first ones that we were messing with because it's a very simple like uh, no code way of building very powerful AI applications, and now they're really pushing the AI agent or AI assistant side of things. So or AI automations, So my studio is a good one. But what we have landed on ultimately is using N8N. And N8N is very similar to Zapier or Make, some of those automation platforms. It's a little bit more technical than those, but it's it's been the best platform that we've used so far because of the AI features that it has. And so if this thing will load, I'll just show you some of the features that you can tap into. It's very visual too. Like the way that you can build the agents visually just makes way more intuitive sense than some of these other platforms. Like for this one, this is like a personal agent that I use. You have like obviously like the agent here, like this is the component, this is the agent, right? The entity. And then we can give the agent multiple different things. We can give it all the tools that it needs to do its job. We can give it the database so it has a knowledge base of information so it can do its job accurately, right? And then we give it some couple of other things. Like I like to give it Wikipedia calculator just in case I have one-off questions where it needs those. But I could give it like a Google search. So let's look over here. If I go to advanced AI, you can see all of the features that they have for AI. They have tons of templates for you, but AI agents. You can get an OpenAI module, basic LLM chain, question and answer chain, summarization chain. These are all nodes for LangChain in particular, which is a really good, probably the main open source like agent builder. It's a coding thing, so there's nothing we need to get into there. But all of these are backed by LangChain, text classifier, and other AI nodes. So you can get in here and there's other things that you can use for AI, like vector stores, that's a popular one. We use Pinecone. I'm going to get into that later. But needless to say, we use N8N because it is the easiest to understand intuitively about how it's all working together, and it's no code, and it's super cheap, and it allows you to host all of this on your own server. So the data security side of things are very, very strong with N8N. So that's a long look into what agents are, but clearly the entire industry is moving towards agents. Clearly, people are super, super excited about it, us included. And clearly, the potential is there. The potential is there for this to be generally world changing. So here are a couple things that we've learned. The number one thing is data is king. This is almost like a, I don't want to say a trope or anything, but it's almost like been oversaid at this point, where it's like data is the new gold, data is the new oil. Data is like this omni-important thing, and it's almost gotten annoying at this point. But it's so true. When you start messing with the agents, it's very clear that they're only as good as the data you give them, and you need to ensure that the data that it has is fully up to date on the context of what's going on in your business. So let's take this from kind of like an esoteric conceptual thing to literally AI agents in your business doing work for you, right? If you were to hire a human, the human gets onboarded, they get trained up, they shadow a little bit, and then they go live, right? There's a multi-step process to getting the data about your business and about what that person is supposed to do, getting that data into their head, and so they can go and they have the agency to go and do exactly what they need to do, right? What you hired them for. The same thing is for agents. We need to give it the data, and we need to keep that data up to date so the agent can go, it has the contextual awareness to go and do the job that you want it to do, right? And so to build the database and give the data to the agent, we create a vector database, and we use Pinecone for that. So let me go over here. We use a service called Pinecone, and they're not the only provider for vector databases. You obviously saw in N8N, they had a couple different options, but they are the one that has so far been the easiest to get up running right away. Works like 100% of the time. It really doesn't break, and if it does break, it's usually something that's my fault. And yeah, it's super cheap. Like it's free basically up to like a point of usage, but we haven't even reached that point yet, and we've been messing with these for months. So Pinecone has been our favorite. We're not loyal to it, obviously. If there's a vector database provider that's better or comes out that's better, then we'll obviously switch. But we really like using Pinecone for now. Supabase also, they're a super popular one. They offer vector embeddings, vector stores, but it's a little bit more complicated to set up inside of Supabase because they're not designed specifically for vector stores like Pinecone is, right? And so when I go back to N8N, you can see Pinecone vector store, right? We're using Pinecone to save all of the information that's streaming in and out of our business, right? So data is king. The next one, data collection and RAG. So RAG means retrieval augmented generation. It's basically just the function that allows the agent to pull the information from the vector database, right? Data collection. The reason why this is so important is because you can build an agent, you can build a vector database, you can shove that vector database full of information over the last 6 months, right, about what's going on in your business. You can extract that information, put it all in the database. Cool. A month later, the database is out of date. The agent is it's not contextually aware about what's going on in the business at the moment. And so you need to keep things up to date to pretty much the minute, right? Up to the minute about like this email was sent, that email gets saved right into the database. Calendar event was created. The details of the calendar event get saved right to the database. New project, new task, a new hire, a new lead entered the system. Anything that's going on inside of your business, any information that's streaming in or out, any interactions that are happening, they should be collected and saved into the database. And so we build automations in order to do that, right? So database, data collection, two extremely, extremely, extremely foundational components to building really, really, really highly effective AI agents. This is something that we knew intuitively at the beginning. We knew conceptually at the beginning that this would be important, but we didn't understand quite how important and at the time how to do it. Right now, we figured out how to do it and do it in a way where it's scalable, sustainable, keeps the database up to date, keeps the agents working effectively. It keeps our hands off. We don't have to get in and upload new data to the database like every night. Like, no, all of this is automated and it works exactly how you expect it to work, right? Which is automated. Prompt engineering. So this one's funny. At the beginning of all of this AI hype, I wasn't super high on prompt engineering. I kind of found it grifty in some ways. Like I was seeing tons of ads of like, get my pack of 1,000 prompts, for marketing. And it's like, yeah, that's kind of cool, but it just seemed kind of grifty. Like it was like, okay, you can't just write a prompt, like just tell it exactly what you want, right? Over time, working with these agents, it became clear that without a structured way of writing the prompts, the agents are not going to perform the way you want them to. They could have all the tools, everything could be set up properly, but if the prompt is not strong enough, the agent's going to flounder, and it might work. The worst case scenario. So you could have the agent like not work at all, and then it's clear, I got to fix the prompt. It's just never working. It works 0% of the time. I need to fix the prompt. Or you can have the agent work 100% of the time, and you're like, okay, this is great. The prompt works. Okay, awesome. But then the worst case scenario is it works like maybe 60 to 70% of the time. So you're testing it. It's working. And then you run into like an edge case or a scenario that you hadn't thought of, and it breaks. And you realize it's because the prompt didn't either account for that scenario, or when you're setting up the instructions for how to solve the problem, it trips over itself in some way, right? And it's hard to explain that without being in there and like having like a clear troubleshooting case of that happening. But needless to say, clearly outlining your prompt is one of the most important pieces to getting these to behave the way you want them to behave. And so we have a template here. And each of our prompts, at least on the system prompt level, right, we have an objective, which is just a clear overall objective for the agent. So an example can be for an agent that we have managing our inbox. Your role is to manage my inbox. You must accurately categorize every email that I receive. So it's super broad. We're not telling it how to do its job. We're not telling it kind of any real details about it, right? We're just telling it this is your role. And then we give it context. This is where we get into some of the details about, okay, so I'm managing this inbox. So what does that mean exactly? Like, whose inbox am I managing? So we give it like, okay, you're managing, the founder's inbox, or you're managing like our CEO's inbox. They receive a ton of emails daily. And it's a huge mix of work-related stuff, personal correspondence, newsletters, spam, etc. These are the categories that we want you to organize them into. These are the priority levels that you need to attach once you categorize them. And then here are the tools that you can use if you need to do something. So if there's an email that you need to reply to, you can use this tool. To categorize the emails, use this tool. If you need to notify the user that it's an important email, use this tool. If you need to access the CRM for some reason, use this tool. If this was a lead that came in and they're responding interested to one of our campaigns, you need to kick this to the lead qualification agent and it'll take it from there, right? So giving it context. And then we give it clear instructions. Give it detailed instructions on how to do its job. So if you were to hire a person, you would give that person detailed instructions on how to do its job, right? It's like, okay, you're an SDR and you're doing cold calls. This is how you cold call. This is the script. This is how you save the information into the CRM. This is how you book a meeting, literally. This is the information that you put in the description of the event that you're creating, right? Like if you ever worked for a really high functioning team, you know that there are very strict processes and instructions and SOPs in place for how to do your job, instructions. And so we do the same with the agents. You also have output requirements. Like once the agent has done the work, what should it output? Does it need to output a JSON package, or does it need to output anything at all, right? Like for our inbox agent doesn't actually have to output anything. Whenever it needs to reply to an email or do anything like that, it's sending it to a tool. So the tool's doing that. So the inbox agent is just simply categorizing and calling the correct tool that needs to be called, right? And then examples, probably the linchpin that makes all of this work in some ways. You could have the perfect prompt, you could have all of the other components in place, and without a bunch of really, really good examples, it's likely that your agent just isn't going to work over the course of a long period of time. After like 100 tests, it's probably going to fail probably 90% of the time if you have the perfect prompt and no examples. With examples, it's like 99.9% of the time. It's not going to, it's probably going to fail. No, it's probably going to succeed 90% of the time without examples. But with examples, it's going to succeed 99.9% of the time. Yeah, I think we got that straight. But examples are pretty much, they're the key to getting the results you want. Without examples, the agents have trouble doing exactly what you need them to do. So in our example about the inbox manager, what we want to show is here's a new email that was received. What do you do with that email, right? First step is you need to categorize it. You need to categorize it as work. You need to categorize it as like high priority. Like in this one, it's like we're excited to present a new project proposal. We think this will be good for both of us. Here's the proposal. Let us know what you think. So it's important. That's obviously an important email, right? Categorizes work, categorizes high priority that I need to see it. And so the tools that it used to do that were the categorize tool, the CRM tool to extract any information that I might need, and then like notifying me, right? The notify user tool. And so we give it other examples for other scenarios that might happen. We don't need to do every scenario, but having plenty of examples makes it work so much better. Okay, so prompt engineering. Tools. Tools are what turns it into an agent. They're what gives it agency, right? It doesn't become an agent until you give it tools, because it literally can't do anything. You could tell it your job is to manage my inbox and reply to emails, and it's like, okay, cool, I'll do that. But if it can't actually reply to the email by using a tool, then it's not an agent. It doesn't have agency. So reason why we like to use N8N is because you can build custom workflows and use those as tools and give them to the agent. So, a common like tool that we use is a workflow that allows an agent to pretty much do whatever it needs to do inside of an email inbox, right? Send an email, mark an email as read, get information about an email, reply to a thread, whenever happens inside of an inbox, like add a label, whatever. We basically created one kind of like workflow that can account for any kind of scenario that might happen in order for it to do the action that it needs to do, right? So to put this simply, let's say that your agent has the email tool, right? The email tool that we've created. It basically can call that tool whenever it needs to send an email, get an email, get many emails, delete an email, mark an email as read, mark it as unread, trash an email, whatever, right? And so the reason why we like N8N is because we can build workflows like that, pretty complex tools, or tools that that are for a massive scope or for like one platform, and use that workflow as a tool. I don't know if I'm saying that clear, but let me just kind of show you. So let's go into N8N. So you can see that our agent here has email actions tool, calendar actions tool, and update database tool. Technically, this database right here is a tool as well. But let's say that I said into Telegram, like, actually, let's try this. Let's see if, here, I'm just going to test it right now. Let's see if this is going to work. I'll pull it up on my phone. Let's say, so what I'm just going to say is send an email to Andrew and schedule a meeting with him for tomorrow at 2. Okay, so I just sent that. You can see it automatically started working. It's going to use my email actions because I said send an email to Andrew. So it's going to go and trigger the email actions to send him an email. And then what it should do is trigger the calendar actions. So email actions worked. Boom. It didn't do calendar actions. Okay, so what it thought when I sent the message, what it thought I sent. So here, let me just go into here so you guys can see it instead of me yapping away. Okay, so I sent this. I said send an email to Andrew Lewis and schedule a meeting with him for tomorrow at 2. So what it's thinking, based on what I said, was send him an email to ask if he can meet at tomorrow at 2. And we're going to get into this stuff a little bit later, but there is like a slight, if you're trying to interact directly with an agent, there's like a slight like language, just like a little slight learning curve with how to talk to it, so it understands exactly what you're talking about. But ultimately, you don't really need to change how you talk. So let's look at the logs. So what happened is the agent used the database here, the Pinecone database. It used our window buffer memory. So this is just the memory from past conversations. We hadn't talked in this session, so nothing pulled up here. It called the OpenAI chat model, which basically just tells it the various tools that we have. So some of this stuff is hard coded into, the agent itself. So we don't actually go in here and like edit any of this. And then it called the email actions tool. And then the email actions tool went through, and then it said message was sent. Okay, cool. Message was sent. And so it got informed that message was sent, and it used the memory accordingly. So probably a little bit hard to understand, but you can see that like the human said this, and then the AI said this. Looks like they made a little bit of update here on this output. So yeah, those are tools. The agent basically sees the message that you're sending it, decides what tools that it needs to use in order to execute the task, right, that it's supposed to execute. Okay. Actually, let me show you one more thing with tools. One more thing. So you see this email actions here. I just want you to visualize what exactly that is, right? Like email actions tool. Okay, that's cool. Let's look. Okay. So you can see it's like a workflow inside of N8N. So we can build literally our entire AI agent team inside of N8N, which is just awesome. So this is that email actions tool I was talking about. It's pretty much like any action that you need to take inside of an email or inside of an inbox. This entire like workflow can handle that for you. So that's what it did. It just called this tool that we had built already here. Okay. That's all I wanted to show you. Integrations. Integration is pretty straightforward, especially if you've worked with any automation platform. But the way to think about it is a little bit different than just automation platform. You need to think about it in terms of, at least from our experience, right? Doing this for 18 months, from our experience, the best way to think about it is think of the agent as a human being. Like truly just think of it as a human, and think of it as like, what does it need access to in order to do its job? And not necessarily like, what is like the perfect like automation workflow, like this information gets saved in this slot here, and then it gets manipulated in this way, and then we take that and we add it to there like it's some kind of hard automation. Don't think about hard automations. Just think about like access to the platform. And so sometimes like with Google and Microsoft, in order to use their APIs to get access to like inbox and calendar and whatnot, you need their APIs, right? Their APIs are broken down into very particular scopes. Same thing with if you were to create a Slack bot, right? Like there's a scope that's like, okay, if you access this API, the only thing you're allowed to do is read a message, right? Can't send a message. You can't reply to a message. You can't even delete the message. All you can do is read, right? And then there's a scope that says write. And then there's one that says delete. And then there's one. And so there's like dozens of scopes within just like one platform, dozens of just actions within one platform, right? And what you need to do with your agent is give them all of the actions, essentially, right? All of the actions that they might need. Usually it's, they're not going to need all of them, but usually we err on the side of safety by just giving them the ability to do any action that's possible within your business or within your platform, right? Within your tech stack. Another way to think about integrations is, okay, this agent, if they were a new employee, which platforms would I sign them up for in order for them to complete their job, right? Like I have an existing tech stack, I have a CRM. I obviously need like this new SDR to have access to the CRM, right? So same thing. And then I would also think about integrations in terms of data, right? What data does the agent actually need in order to complete its tasks? What is happening on one of my platforms in my tech stack that should trigger the agent to go and do something else, right? So integrations are obviously straightforward. I think this is probably something that people are pretty used to working with, especially if you're doing automations. But there is a slight change in how you think about it when you're building agents as opposed to just hard automations. And that's something that we had to learn. Architecture. This was the biggest learning so far. And I think we unlocked it just in how in the framework and how we like build our agents and how we think about them. It was a huge unlock when we finally kind of like crystallized, okay, this is how you do it. Okay. And so like, I'm going to tell you now, this is how you do it. Basically, the way to think about it is you have job functions, and underneath each job function are various workflows, right? So like an SDR has to, uh, they have to prospect and save that information, prospect and reach out. So they got to find people online, do a little bit of research on the people, and then draft like a really good email to send to those people, right? That's one workflow, prospecting. Then you have another workflow that's following up. You're following up with engaged leads, people who are interested, people that you might have had a call with in the past, right? Following up, that's one workflow. Finding content that they might find relevant. How do I craft like a really good follow-up message, right? That's one workflow. Another one is how do I let's book a call, right? They're interested in booking a call. Let's qualify the lead and book the call. That's another workflow. So that's a couple different workflows within just one job function of SDR, right? And then within those workflows are various tasks. And when we're thinking about just hard automations, not agents, just hard automations, you're usually just automating a task, right? And then occasionally, if you're really good, you can automate entire workflows by just automating a bunch of different tasks, right? People who are really good at automation are actually really good at just like automating almost everything. The issue is with hard automation, obviously, is any edge cases, any reasoning that might need to happen, any decision making that might need to happen, anything where it's like, it's not like clearly this or clearly that. It's not binary. Anything like that, automations break. So agents are really good at doing various different tasks that are all going to add to a specific workflow using kind of like reason and thinking behind it. So how does this look? So let's look. I have this set up. What am I doing? I'm trying to come up with it off the top of my head. So we've built a lead generation AI agent team, right? A lot of founders, especially solo entrepreneurs, agency owners, find themselves creating tons of content, or maybe they're doing like ads or cold email, and they're getting some leads like into their ecosystem. They're getting people on their email list fairly consistently. But the issue is, their focus is on servicing their current clients, trying to do sales calls, trying to create content, and everything in between. Their focus isn't on going through their lead list, trying to enrich those leads, like do research on them, send follow-up messages. Like most people, most founders, most business owners are just creating content or doing cold email or doing ads, and then hoping that the people who engage with that stuff are just like booking a call right there, and then they hop on a call and then you close them and then you got a new client. The reality is there's so many steps in between like them engaging with your stuff at the beginning to them hopping on the call that you're missing out on so much revenue. There's so much revenue that could be extracted from your lead list that you're just ignoring because you just don't have the bandwidth, frankly, or the time to just the money to just hire like a lead gen professional. So let's talk about lead gen in particular, how it would look architecturally building agents. So in order to do the workflow that I mentioned earlier for that one SDR, you're probably going to need 4 different agents. At least that's how we've set it up. And each agent tackles one workflow. So it starts off with the inbox management agent. This one is obviously managing our entire inbox. And so if any leads come in that are responding interested, and maybe they have some questions or they want to set up a call, it's going to kick that to the lead qualification agent, right? And so obviously this inbox agent has various different tools that we give it so it can do its job. But like, let's say a lead came in and it was interested and we kicked it to the lead qualification agent. Let's get to that one down here. And so what the lead qualification agent needs access to in order for it to do its job, which its job is just to respond to queries from the leads and schedule appointments with qualified leads, qualify them by asking the correct questions, so it needs access to the CRM. Obviously, it needs email actions, and it needs calendar. It needs to see calendar availability and to book the calendar, right? So lead qualification that can also be triggered via the DMs or something, right? Anybody responds interested, lead qualification agent gets called. Lead enrichment. So let's say you posted a lead magnet. You require name and email in order to access that lead magnet. Now that lead is added to your CRM. Immediately, the lead enrichment agent would go and search Google, find their LinkedIn, scrape what information it can, find their website, scrape what information it can, summarize that information, maybe assign some kind of quality value to the lead, like unsure or very qualified or not qualified at all or whatever, and then save that information into the CRM as well. We can make that lead enrichment agent better and better, I think, over time. Lead nurturing agent. So leads in the system. Maybe it's triggered to schedule to go off like every morning. It goes off. It reads the CRM, the lead list. It finds anybody who hasn't been responded to in maybe like 7 days or hasn't received a touch point in 7 days. And then it goes and obviously reads the information about the lead, drafts a really good email. Maybe it goes to your Google Drive and finds like a piece of content or a case study that might be relevant, that might resonate with the lead, and it sends that along, right, and nurtures them. And so if we look at all of these together, we can see that we don't need an agent group chat. We don't need like a centralized commander. This thing is going so slow. We don't need like all of these little like nice to have little pieces that all of these other frameworks offer, like Crew AI or something. Like you don't need a group chat with your agents, right? You just need your agent to accomplish like one part of its job, one workflow, and to be triggered off of like one or two events, right? So inbox management gets triggered off of a new email. Lead nurturing is scheduled to go off, and then lead enrichment just works every time a new lead is added to the system. There's no reason to connect all of these. I mean, the lead qualification one gets connected here, but lead qualification should technically also get connected to lead nurturing, although there's no need because lead nurturing is not fielding inbound emails. So yeah, that's why we don't have it. But anyway, you could see why, like even me just saying that, you could see why, like thinking about the architecture and how these agents are going to work together, how it's important that you do it correctly, right? Especially if the goal is to build a team of agents to take over or replace one entire job function in and of itself. Okay, so we just went over architecture. And the last thing is, over the last 18 months, it's been clear that this is the future. I've obviously been saying it throughout this video, but it is just so abundantly clear that AI is not just going to stay as a chatbot. It's not just going to be the voice in our ear. It's not going to be like our little helper that just like gives us information or instructions. It's clear that that is not it, right? That's not going to stay there. What is clear, again, is that AI is going to start having agency. It's going to start actually doing things. We're going to give it, arms and legs and fingers and toes and extremities, and then we'll give it tools and we'll teach it how to use those tools, and it'll learn more on its own, and it'll actually go out and do things, right? It'll essentially just be our little workers, our hive of workers that are supporting us inside of our businesses. And so the reason why, to bring it back to why we like this for business, is because every piece of technological innovation has been to give us some kind of leverage in life or in business, especially in business. This is the next major step in that, the next frontier, if you will. When you're thinking about scaling a business, it's no longer going to be, who do I need to hire? Do we have enough in the budget to bring on more headcount, to increase headcount? It's now going to be, can we build an AI agent, or can we build a team of AI agents to fulfill this job that we need fulfilled, right? Oh man, I really think I should be getting on podcasts, right? Man, do I need to hire somebody to go and reach out to a bunch of podcast hosts and book interviews, or can I just spin up a team of agents to just go be my podcast, um, team, to go and like schedule me on various different podcasts, right? Oh man, I really wish I could. I really need to hire like a new salesperson for this role. Like, do I need to hire a recruiter or an HR person? I mean, maybe it depends what the role is, but realistically, you could just have agents like do that stuff for you. Um, oh man, it would be really nice if I just hired more like customer success people. If we had more project managers, and it's like you don't necessarily need more project managers or customer success people. Um, just give each of your clients an agent that has access to just the information about what's going on with their project and their business. And then any common questions or FAQs or anything that's happening, concerns, documents that they need, whatever, the agent can take care of that stuff. But anything that's like real about their business or changes in strategy or building relationships in general, your customer success and project managers can do that, right? Um, and all this is doing, the entire point is just to give you massive leverage in your business, decrease the margins that it costs, or decrease the cost that it takes to scale your business, and increase your margins overall, and use that money to hire high value employees that can 100x your business, as opposed to employees that are kind of just, you're hiring them just to like maintain what you're doing, right? Like, man, I'm really tired of doing this. Let me just delegate this to somebody else. Instead of that being like a person, it's going to now be agents, right? I think everybody's moving to this over the next few years. I'm going to start rambling about this, but if you're interested in talking about it, do book a call with us. We're happy to talk. And if you do want to learn more about kind of like more details about how we think about it and build our agents and some examples, there's a link in the description that should take you to a YouTube video that kind of dives into all of that stuff. But other than that, thanks.